Addition and subtraction with unlike denominators. So far, we've learned how to add or subtract fractions with common denominators, how to multiply fractions regardless of their denominators, and how to create equivalent fractions. Now we will learn how to use this knowledge to add or subtract fractions with unlike denominators. We will use what we've learned to convert the fractions we want to add or subtract into equivalent fractions that have common denominators. Then we can just add them like we did earlier. The first step in doing this is to determine what the common denominator of both fractions should be. We will use our prior learning of least common multiples to determine the least common denominator of the fractions we will be adding or subtracting. Here's the process. Find the least common denominator for both fractions, which is the least common multiple of their denominators. Convert each fraction into an equivalent fraction with that common denominator, then add or subtract them since they now have the same denominator. The least common denominator is the least common multiple of the denominators. It is found the same way we found the LCM in an earlier unit, either by listing the multiples of the denominators until we find the first one that is shared between them, or by factoring each denominator and then multiplying together each factor raised to the highest power in which it occurs in either denominator. Here's the first problem. Add these two fractions, 1 over 3 and 2 over 5. You can see the denominators are not the same. We need to find the lowest common denominator. So we need to find multiples of those numbers until we find the lowest one. So multiples of 3 include 3 times 1, times 2, times 3, times 4, times 5, and so on. Multiples of 5, 5 times 1, times 2, times 3. And you can see that 15 is the lowest number that's in both lists. Therefore, the lowest common denominator for these fractions is 15. Next, we need to convert both of these fractions into equivalent fractions that have a denominator of 15. To convert 1/3 into having a denominator of 15, we have to multiply 3 by 5. However, we can't multiply just the denominator by 5. We have to multiply by 1, which is 5 over 5. So 1 times 5 is 5, 3 times 5 is 15. 5 over 15 is equivalent to 1 over 3. Similarly, we multiply the denominator over here. We have to multiply 5 by 3 to get 15. So we have to also multiply the numerator by 3. 2 times 3 is 6, 5 times 3 is 15. 6 over 15 is equivalent to 2 over 5. These two fractions have now been converted into fractions that have a common denominator. So now we can just add the numerators. 5 plus 6 is 11, and just every time we add fractions, we always leave the denominator the same, 15. The answer is 11 over 15. If it were possible to simplify this at this step, we would, but this is in its simplified form. Add 3 over 4 plus 2 over 9. So we need to find the lowest common denominator. So we're going to take that 4, we're going to make the tree, we get 2 and 2. So we have 2 times 2. 9, we have 3 times 3. Remember, 2 times 2 is actually 2 squared. Over here we have 3 squared. Now to find the lowest common denominator, we do just multiply both of these together, because 2 appears once with a squared, 3 appears once with a squared. So what is 4 times 9? 36. And actually that's a pretty fast way to find a common denominator, is just to multiply the numbers together. But that's not always the lowest one, but it will always work. So once we have that, we now need to convert these fractions into having a denominator of 36. So 3/4. What do we need to multiply 4 by to get 36? Well, 9. Which means we also have to multiply the numerator by 9, because right, we have to multiply by 1, and 1 is 9 over 9. So therefore we get 3 times 9, which is 27 over 36. 2/9 But we want that denominator to be 36, which means we need to multiply top and bottom by 4. That gives us 8 over 36. Now we're going to add them together. 27 over 36 plus 8 over 36 is 35 over 36. All right, so you can see here is where they do the prime factors, and you have to multiply each factor together with the highest exponent as it appears, which here is just 2 squared and 3 squared. Multiply them together, you get 36. Then you multiply each of these fractions by a representation of the number 1. So 9 over 9, 4 over 4, which will then result in those fractions having the common denominator of 36. Finally, add the numerators, keep the denominator the same. You get 35 over 36. Add 1 over 3 to 3 2/9. The first thing we're going to do is convert this mixed number into an improper fraction. So remember, we multiply these together, then we add the numerator. So 3 times 9 is 27, plus 2 is 29 over 9. So we're really adding 1/3 plus 29 over 9. The next step is to find the lowest common denominator. But that's pretty easy to see, that it is going to be 9. So let's see, well, I'll break it down. So 3 is just a prime factor, so that's it by itself. 9 is 3 times 3, so 3 times 3 is 3 squared. The lowest common denominator is the factor, all of the factors multiplied together to the highest exponent that they appear. So that is 3 squared. Therefore, 9 is the lowest common denominator. So as shown here, we first convert the mixed number into an improper fraction. Then we find the lowest common denominator, which happens to be 9. The second fraction already has the lowest common denominator, so we only need to convert the first fraction. So we're going to multiply 1/3 by 3 over 3, because 3 times 3 gives us 9, that lowest common denominator. And the numerator is 1 times 3, which is 3. So now the problem becomes 3 over 9 plus 29 over 9, which is 32 over 9, which if you want to then go and convert it to a mixed number, you can. So 9 goes into 32 3 times. 3 times 9 is 27, giving us a remainder of 5. And then you just put that 5 over the original denominator, so 3 5/9. Subtracting using lowest common denominators, 1 over 12 minus 2 over 9. First, we find the lowest common denominator. So the prime factors of 12 are 3 and 2 squared. The prime factors of 9 are 3 squared. So we have to include a 2 and a 3, but this 3 is to the power of 1, while this one is to the power of 2. So that's the one we include. 2 squared times 3 squared is 36. The 3 in the factorization of 12 does not affect the result, since 3 is raised to a higher power over here. Remember, we don't have to include all of the 3's, just the 3 raised to the highest power. We're now going to convert both of these fractions to equivalent fractions that have a denominator of 36. In order to get 12 to become a 36, we multiply it by 3. So we're going to multiply the whole fraction by 1, in this case, 3 over 3. 1 times 3 is 3, 12 times 3 is 36. So 3 over 36 is equivalent to 1 over 12. Over here, to get 36, we need to multiply 9 by 4. So we have 4 over 4. 2 times 4 is 8, 9 times 4 is 36. Finally, we have our two fractions rewritten as fractions over 36. Therefore, we now subtract the numerators. 3 minus 8 is negative 5. Therefore, our answer is negative 5 over 36. Try these. All right, let's start here. We need the common denominator for these two fractions, 5 and 4. So 5 is a prime number. 4 is 2 times 2. So there are our factors. We have to multiply them all together. 5 times 4 is 20. So in order to get a fraction that's over 20, What do we multiply 5 by? Well, 4. So 4 over 4. 2 times 4 is 8. All right. So we need to now convert this fraction to be over 20. To do so, we need to multiply the 4 by 5. So we're going to do 5 over 5. 1 times 5 is 5. So what is 8 minus 5? That is 3. And then we keep the same denominator. The answer is 3 over 20. All right, next we have 3 over 7 minus 2 over 8. Now, 7 is a prime number, and 8 is 2 times 4, which is 2 times 2. So that's 2 cubed. So therefore, we have 7 times 2 cubed, which is 8. So really, we're just multiplying these two together, which, once again, always works, but it's not always the lowest. In this case, though, it is the lowest. So therefore, what is 7 times 8? 56. In order to get 7 to turn into 56, you multiply it by 8. So we need to multiply this whole fraction by 1. 3 times 8 is 24 over 56. Now, what do we multiply 8 by to get 56? 7. So we have 7 over 7. 2 times 7 is 14. And then we have 24 minus 14 is 10 over 56. But this can be simplified. We can divide the top and bottom by 2. And that gives us 5 over 28, which cannot be simplified further. 4 over 5 minus 3 over 8. In this case, the lowest common denominator is also going to be just multiplying 5 times 8, which is 40. The way I know that is because 8 is 2 cubed, and that's a factor. 5 is also a prime factor. So to find the lowest common denominator, we're going to end up just multiplying 5 times 2 to the third, which is 5 times 8, which is 40. So that means we have to multiply this fraction by 8 over 8, because 5 times 8 is 40. 4 times 8 is 32. The next fraction, we're going to multiply by 5 over 5, because 8 times 5 is 40. 3 times 5 is 15. So what is 32 minus 15? 17. 17 over 40, and there's no more simplification that can be done. All right, here it's a little trickier. We have another negative sign. But first, let's find that common denominator. These are both prime numbers, which means we're just going to multiply them together. 21 is the lowest common denominator. To get that, we have to multiply 3 by 7. So we're going to throw a 7 over there. 7 over 7. Negative 6 times 7 is negative 42. All right, down here, to get 7 to become 21, we multiply it by 3. So we're going to multiply the top by 3 as well. Now, negative 42 minus 6 is negative 48 over 21. But this can be simplified. All right, so we can actually divide the top and bottom by 3. 48 divided by 3 is 16. 21 divided by 3 is 7. And then that can be rewritten as a mixed number just by doing that division. So 7 goes into 16 twice. 2 times 7 is 14, giving us that remainder of 2 over 7. And it is negative, so you need that negative sign out front.